Hello, everyone. It is a dark and stormy night here at That City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida. And as always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to talk to you about all of the last 2 weeks indie and small press new releases as we wind down your weekend. Now, there is literally a tropical storm outside, so nobody has been able to come to the store all day. So we thought we'd still hopefully get to go live and talk to you about all of the great comics that released. We're going to see if that works, because we did say we would go live as long as there was power, and about 5 minutes ago, we tried, and we completely lost power. So we're going to see if it holds out long enough to talk about all of this goodness right here. There's a lot. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see it. Look at that. There is about 80 comics in this pile that I read today. So we're going to see if I remember what I read after reading 80 comics in one day. But I'm excited to talk about them either way. And of course, if we're going to talk about comics and we're going to wind down your weekend, we have to also talk about some wine that we are winding down our weekend with. And so this week, we are drinking a Tempranillo that I randomly found at the store that is called, oh my gosh, see, like once I get on the spot, I get nervous. Marques de Caceres. Yes, Caceres. Marques de Caceres. It's a Tempranillo, so it's completely like imported from Spain, because that's the region where you get the Tempranillo grapes, which is my favorite kind of wine. So I'm hoping that it's ultimately and incredibly delicious, because it's my birthday wine. So I hope it's really good and that I didn't pick a terrible wine for my birthday.
It's your birthday.
So we're gonna take a drink and find out how I did, because if it's terrible, I'm taking out the fancy wine afterwards because it's my birthday. So. It tastes like a Tempranillo. It kind of tastes like the Campo one that we get a lot.
Campo Viejo?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I'm happy with it. I like Tempranillos because they are a little spicier. This one does say that it's silky smooth, which you definitely do get a smooth texture to the taste. And it's like Tempranillo grapes, and they actually say that they then use like both French and American oak to like age it in, and so so far, I'm satisfied with the choice to pick this one, and I cannot wait to drink more of it. It's going to be amazing. If you're hanging out with us tonight, let us know that you're there in the comments. I want to see everybody who's hanging out. That I won't see until after, because I literally cannot see anything about whether or not you're there until the end of the show.
Anthony Pizza said he had a lot of books with 20.
Ooh, nice.
And Mike Wilkins said, happy birthday, Shan.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited. Anthony, good job with the 20 books. That's a lot. This is 2 weeks. So usually like when, we have 2 weeks back to back, it does get kind of high. And I guess I should tell you why we had 2 weeks back to back, because if you haven't stopped in the store yet, you may not know that Matt and I were gone last week for San Diego Comic-Con. So it was a really exciting time. We were a finalist for the Will Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award, which means we were named one of the top 5 stores in the world for the second year in a row, which was a quite incredible experience. Thank you so much to all the judges, of course, but honestly for us, thank you to all of our incredible volunteers and customers and everybody who just support the store and make it incredible every single day. It's like what Matt and I do only matters because we have all of you here with us for it. So thank you to everybody for being a part of our lives. We also got the chance to, just hang out with a ton of our comic publishing friends and meet with a lot of different people. We had so many meetings while we were there and so many great celebrations of comics. So it was a lot of fun. But one of the best things, and I'm so happy to be live on the internet to finally be able to shout it out to the world out loud, and especially since you said that Mike is here. But we had this incredible experience where our volunteers who were watching the store came together together and created an event last Saturday where they gave out free burgers to the community. And I did mention, it's cool that Mike is watching the show, because Mike was one of our customers, was also volunteered his time to come out and grill all the burgers with the team. So thank you so much again to Barrett and Santiago and Alex and Mike and the Gavin and to the Sweeneys who went out, and Stacy Sweeney, who went out and literally made all of the patties for every single burger. You are all incredible, and thank you, Mike, for jumping in and helping, and just for everybody who came out and hung out with the guys while we were gone. Thank you so much for just supporting the community and the community that we've created here, and that you continue to help us create here every day. This week we had a lot of fun here in the shop. We had our Mad Cave, a special edition of Creator Meetup, which was really cool. You, like I just said, you all continuously amaze me with how great you are as a community, and you totally proved that 1,000 times over again during Mad Cave Creator Meetup, because this is for the Mad Cave Talent Search, which of course we're going to talk about Mad Cave a lot tonight because they are a publisher who makes some incredible books, but they're having a talent search to find new writers, artists, colorists, letterers, and it's all a competition, and they are picking people based off of their submissions that they do that go under certain categories and rules. And all of you amazing Bat Fam members came together and literally critiqued each other's pitches, provided all this amazing feedback, took people who were just out of concept and literally helped them build the entire submission while they were there. It was just so great to see the encouragement and the teamwork that went into just making this incredible opportunity for everybody. And I just love to see how much you support each other and work together. And then yesterday we had the last Slam Academy of the summer. Big shout out to our incredible advanced art teacher, Adrian Prudhomme, for all of the incredible classes and curriculum that he designed and taught this summer. And a shout out to Santiago for helping create all the writing curriculum with me and being a support to a teaching assistant to both me and Adrian in every class. It was just so great. And thank you to everybody that came all summer long. But specifically, thanks to everybody yesterday who haven't gotten their shout out. We had the longest of all Slam classes with a 3-hour class on marketing, everything from how to build a pitch and a pitch packet, to how to talk to publishers, to how to talk to customers, to how to get your book in front of people at all the different places you could do that, and from stores to cons to neighborhood markets. It was incredible. Thank you for all your questions and for listening to me ramble. As you're going to do again right now. And speaking of great things going on in Bat City, this week is Fresh Start Book Club, and we will be reading World Tree #1. For that, you can grab this image first for only $1 when you come out for that. That is this Thursday night at 7 p.m. I'm so excited to talk about this weird book that everybody loves from James Tynion. And so we're gonna get to see how that goes down. So this Thursday, come and join us. I'm going to take another drink because it's going to be a while before I get one, because again, I told you I read 80 books. So, and then we're going to dive in and we're going to count this down. And again, fingers crossed for that power to stay together. It doesn't sound as wild with the wind right now, so hopefully the bounce back of the power means we're going to make it. But we'll find out. And we're going to kick it off with Saga, issue 67 from Image. It has been a long time coming. It's so hard to say that with Saga after a 4-year gap, to say that any issue is a long time coming for them. But it did take months since the last issue of Saga, and even was supposed to come, this issue was supposed to come out months ago. So it's been quite a minute. And we do find out why from Brian K. Vaughan in a letter from in the back. So, there was just some personal things going on. But we have jumped ahead just a little bit again, and now we are seeing the fam in the circus life. And we see that for, their unique situation with everybody having something that makes them a little bit different and a little bit crass to the average community, that the circus kind of suits them really well. And we also find out that this is going to be one of those moments of making a new friend in a life-changing situation. We've had so many times where they've come across different characters and types of people, and we're kind of seeing how they're kind of coming out. Some of them are coming out of their grief, like our main family is coming out of some grief that they've been carrying along with them for a long time, but some of our other characters are falling further into their grief from their losses. And we're going to see, once again, how that pushes people forward. One of the things about Saga is that it is entirely character-driven, and so getting to see how each character responds to different things and how they kind of miss the mark on so many of those things is always an interesting way to see just exactly how people deal with situations in their life. As always, just a fantastic, fun adventure coming our way with this next arc of Saga. Something is Killing the Children, 39, from Boom Studios. Once again, far into the series, but this is that arc where you are able to kind of jump into the story. And honestly, this is a great way to get to know Erica Slaughter in this issue, because Erica is actually having a conversation with a therapist in one of the random towns that she's in. And she's just kind of going through her own trauma and the things that she experienced, not just as a child who watched her family die, but with all the things that she has gone through with her found family. If you've been reading this, you know that Erica seems like she's very disconnected from the order and the people, but in reality it's really because she's been so attached to so many of the people before, and we just kind of get to see a little bit more of that human side of Erica. That is what drives her so much in this. If you are looking to get into Something is Killing the Children, this new arc that started recently is definitely kind of a good place. If you aren't if you're like one of those people who's like, I don't want to jump in on an arc, there is a 0 issue coming your way very, very soon that will help you come back to the beginning of Something That's Killing the Children. We've got House of Slaughter, issue 25, and this is the end of the story, maybe. This is obviously connected to the Something That's Killing the Children universe, and therefore also from Boom Studios. But if you've been reading House of Slaughter, every other arc essentially has been following the story of the Butcher War and Jace Butcher, who is connected in a large part to the house in New Orleans and even just the connected pieces of our House of Slaughter. Now, in Erica's story, in Something Is Killing the Children, we've seen that the House of Slaughter, the secret society that she is a member of, is kind of collapsing. And the dragon who runs it is kind of at, old man falling apart, maybe not so much the best person to continue leading it. And he has come down to New Orleans to help the House of Butcher put things back together again. But we always underestimate this man, and every time you think, oh, this is where he is just going to prove that he's just an old man with nothing left to give, he's definitely got something up his sleeve, and he is using that towards his fight against Jace Butcher and the House of Butcher entirely, and we are going to see how that plays out in this issue as we wrap up that story completely, and see how it's hopefully going to tie us back into Something Is Killing the Children very soon. So if you haven't read it yet and you are reading Something Is Killing the Children, House of Slaughter is definitely a great companion. We're just going to keep going with James Tynion and his worlds with Department of Truth, issue 24, this one being from Image. This is all about a world where everything that we believe in conspiracy theory-wise becomes reality, and so there is a department of the government that is supposed to ensure that, that the truth is not only out there, but remains consistently the truth. And this is also the arc for people who may have missed those previous ones that want to jump in. James Tynion's kind of given us some places to jump back into his stories right now. And this is the beginning of that Department of Truth. Who are the people that put all of this together, the Ministry of Lies essentially together? Who are the people who are trying to keep our government and our country and our society in general running in a correct way? And what does Lee Harvey Oswald have to do with all of them? And we're going to take this back to the 1960s and see how he connects to the story and how this story is actually going to come into what we are dealing with in the modern times. So if you haven't picked this up yet, we're early on in this arc, so it's a great time to jump in. And really, if you're a fan of conspiracy theories, if you are just a fan of the conspiracy theory around the death of JFK, this is definitely a time to jump in and grab that. We've got Grimm, issue 19 from Boom Studios. This is going to be some of our backstory that we haven't seen in a while as well with Grimm. If you don't know Grimm, it is the story of a girl named Jess who was living in the afterlife, working as a Grim Reaper, and suddenly a lot of things have gone down and death can no longer come to people, and she is the one who has to find the Reaper's staff, the scythe, I guess, and put it all back together again. Early on, we had a really cool character who we thought was going to be an ally to our team, but was actually not so much the case, and we've kind of wondered what happened to her after her bad choices she made. And in this issue, we get to see where she is hanging out right now, but we also get to see her backstory and kind of what not only led to her death, which is a thing that is considered the backstory of all characters in Grimm, since they are, of course, living in the afterlife, but also kind of maybe some of the reasons why she is the way she is and why she is so anti the system of death. And it's a really beautiful story. She was my favorite character. I was so excited about her, and then she made some terrible choices. But we're going to see how those terrible choices play out for her as the story unfolds, because they're not going well. It's not going well for anybody. It's definitely not going well for her, and that darkness is all-consuming. So check it out. If you haven't read Grimm yet, you definitely should grab Volume 1 and check it out, because it is a fun story that's like a little bit in the realm of Something is Killing Children, but also giving us something completely unique, and Stephanie Phillips is always telling a good story. We've got Local Man, issue 12 from Image Comics. If you've ever wondered what it would be like if 90s superheroes were written in today's society, Image is giving you that. And whether it's part of their 30th anniversary or if it's just because it just happened to have come out that so many of their stories right now would be that's what it is. But in Local Man, we are following a guy who was a part of one of those cross-gen, big gen, early 90 Image kind of conversations, and now he has returned home because he's been fired from his team, and he, in the first couple of arcs, had to deal with a lot of drama that came from his ex-girlfriend overrunning the town with some evil villains and doing some terrible things. And now he's actually dealing with the fact that the way that they came in to fix the town, a group called the Horde moved in, and they are essentially like a cult that brainwashes everybody to believe that they can help them. And so now he's having to go against that, and in this issue he realizes the only way that he's going to be able to stop them is if he can get into the mind of one person. And of course, the husband of his ex-girlfriend, who hates him more than anybody, is the person he chooses as a person that he can open up their mind and get them on his side. And so we are going to see this tag team duo that is not going to work well together have to come together in order to save some really important people in his life and the town that he lives in. The cool thing about Local Man is you always get an additional story on the back, which is actually like the 90s comic that these people would have been featured in, and so it's kind of cool. But what's interesting in this issue is they actually do mention Blood Squad 7, which is another one of those what if these 90s characters were written in the now comics that's happening for Image right now, so which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Something Epic, issue 12 from Image Comics and the one-man artist himself, Simon Krodansky. This is such a cool volume right now of Something Epic, because the first story, which kind of dealt with the idea of people who would see imaginary worlds, the things we created and the art behind that, this volume has consisted completely of people who can control the world and the imagination of people through the stories they tell. And so we are following one girl who is an epic, which means she can see imaginary worlds and kind of manipulate them and control them. Who works as a detective for those imaginary worlds, and she is trying to figure out why so many of the gods that people believe in are disappearing, because they are also considered imaginary characters, because they do come from the belief of people beyond sight. And so we lost Zeus and a couple others, but we also found the death of Sherlock Holmes has come, and so she's the only person who can investigate these, and now she is going against the god Set. But we learn in this issue that he may not be the big bad that we thought he was. And there is definitely more to come, as we are going to lead into possibly the next volume, as we are already teasing volume 2 as a trade paperback coming out in October. We've got Ghost Lore issue 12 from Boom Studios, and this is the wrap-up of Ghost Lore. We are finally seeing where this story's fruition is leading us. If you don't know Ghost Lore, it was opened up with a young teenage girl and her family getting in a car accident, and her dad suddenly finding themselves as people who came close to death with the ability to talk to ghosts. Her dad, who's always been a priest and has always helped, or a preacher I guess I should say, has always helped usher people to the other side of their grief and their guilt, no longer has any desire to do that for people. And so he is using these ghosts, he's almost torturing them, while she has found it her place to help ghosts pass to the other side by hearing their stories. An ultimate battle has come, and in this issue we actually get to see them face that ultimate battle and learn how to not only rely on each other, but rely on the kind of ways and methods that the other one may have. But the young girl in this story, Harmony, also learns that the afterlife isn't something to be afraid of, and that maybe supporting people on their journey through it is, in fact, more than just a power she was given, but a calling that she could have. And we're going to see what she does with that as we come to the end of the story. We've got The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, issue 11 from Dark Horse Comics. This is your universal monsters in a modern world kind of situation. They're all high school students, and we are following along the main character, Christopher Chaos, who's essentially our Dr. Frankenstein kind of character, but seems to maybe have a little bit more to him than even beyond that. And over the course of the last 11 issues, we've seen him become friends with a guy who is Dracula Boy and a girl who has the ability to talk to these ghost cats and kind of control them. And they also did meet Adam Frankenstein, otherwise known as the Creature. In this arc, they have actually suddenly found themselves face to face with some very angry werewolves who are coming to their school, who we know are a part of a werewolf pack that is very angry about the loss of one of their members, who they think these kids may be responsible for the death of. They have no idea that in reality, we know that the kids are very sad over the loss of a friend. And so we're kind of seeing this pack hunt against Chris Chaos and all of his people, and we're going to see whether or not maybe they're going to understand what really happened. I'm hoping for a team up against the ultimate bads, which are the secret society that's determined to eradicate the world of monsters. I'm sure it's going to come. I can't wait. I hope it does. We've got Void Rivals, issue 11 from Image, Skybound, and your Inner John universe. This is the thing that launched your crossover between Transformers and G.I. Joe at Image, Skybound, and it is your current Robert Kirkman book, for those of you who are Walking Dead fans. But this is the story of two warring nations who have been told their whole lives that the other ones were the ultimate enemies, and now in the battle, two of them crash land on a planet and actually find out that there is no difference between the two of them. And over the last 11 issues, they have been trying to convince their people that they shouldn't be fighting against each other, and that has led them onto this rogue planet essentially, and they are trying to find their way back to another safe space, and they end up coming across a bounty hunter comes for them who is very determined to kill them and destroy them, and they fall into the protection of a transformer, and they are using that as a way to kind of get themselves to safety, but also to learn that there's ways that they can help people. And one of them is we have the opportunity now, we can team up with this transformer, and we can take this Energon and we can save the world. And we can't go back to fighting against each other, but we see that there may be some hesitance from the other side still even now, and we're going to figure out hopefully why in the next issue and see if there's a way that we can keep these people together. I'm also waiting for this to really connect to what's going on Earth in Transformers and G.I. Joe, and I have a feeling that we are getting a lot closer to that as we're seeing more and more of characters from both sides of the Energon crossover coming our way. We've got Project Cryptid issue 11 from Ahoy Comics, and in this issue we had a couple of stories in it, as with always, but actually one of them ended up being an accidental reprint, so we're going to skip that one. And we're going to go to, I think it was the reprint. Okay, yeah, we're going to go to the second story, which is all about a Capi Lobo, which is kind of like a capybara and a werewolf mixed together, essentially. And this man has signed this Capi Lobo to a contract to be a singer because he's like, oh, you have a great voice, I want to put you in a contract. And he signs a lifetime contract because he doesn't know any better because he's Capi Lobo. And now he's saying he can't come back out of his original form. And so this is how he's trying to get out of his contract. And so they take him into a doctor, and we get the whole backstory of how this Capi Lobo ended up here, and see whether or not the doctor can figure out what's wrong with him and make him come back to reality. I think that was a reprint. I don't know. We've already had the Jersey Devil story, so I think it was just a reprint of the Jersey Devil. Could be a second story of the Jersey Devil, but I think it's the same one. And then we also had, and I just always have to show this off whenever I get the chance, there's always these really cool write-ups of prose stories at the back that feature one cool piece of art, and this one once again has an awesome piece of art from our good friend Ed, which is super dope. Look at this cool art and all this story about this guy who wanted to be a hero in his own right. This is dope. Ed's such a good artist. I love to get to see when he does these at the back of Ahoy. So shout out to Ed. I know, such classic art. He's so good. We've got No One, issue 10 from Image and your Black Market Narrative imprint, which is your Massive Verse, your Radiant Black, your Rogue Sun, Dead Lucky, all of that. And this is the end of No One, or is it the beginning of the story? We'll never know. But if you've been following along with No One, you know that it has been about a police officer who is kind of like supposed to be at the edge of retirement, whose own son admitted to being a killer. And at the same time, there is a podcaster who is trying to figure out who No One is, who everybody thinks is this vigilante in the town, and we're not quite sure what's really going on. This is that ultimate climax of the story, though, as we see the son of the police officer has escaped from prison and has rounded up all of the people who he thinks made him into the villain that he is, and is like, look, the whole thing about No One, the whole thing about these murders is accountability, and the thing at the end of the day is that I may be a villain, but I got that way because of all of you. And he's like, I'm gonna take them all out except for you, random journalist who does this podcast. I want you to record it all, and I want you to put it out there. And we see him even try to go after No One directly, and we see how that works out. And whether or not we ever get an answer to who is No One is a question that we may still be asking for years to come. We've got Knights, issue 9 from Image Comics. This is one of the strangest books that somehow in this arc has really pulled me back in. I wasn't really sure about it at the end of the last arc, and now I'm starting to love the characters even more. But this is about a couple of kids who all live together. One who is dating a vampire, who is a teenage boy who's come to move in with his kind of 20-somethings-year-old cousin, who has a terrible problem with being involved with shady businesses, but also has this secret Miyazaki tied to some spirit animal in the woods kind of situation that's dark and creepy. He just got back with his childhood sweetheart. They also have a friend who is a skeleton who has who has died but has not passed on. And so all of them in this issue are actually going to New York at Christmas time because our main character has an interview as with a chance to possibly go to film school and get out of the mess he's always been in. And so they go off to celebrate Christmas in New York. And it's like kind of the most wholesomely weird story. Again, it's very, if you put Miyazaki into modern times in America, what would it look like? It's very much has that feel of that more gritty, dark American, more violent story. But yet at the same time, it's like, oh, but there's this like heartwarming undertow that goes through the whole thing. And meanwhile, Gray, our vampire, has been dealing with a lot of crazy things, including finding out like what spirits lie within her. And she is struggling now as a painting in a museum has flared something deep inside of her, and we're gonna find out if there is more darkness in her than we can control. It's, again, I'm really loving this arc. We're gonna see where it goes. We've got The Forged, issue 9 from Image Comics, and you've got this IMAX size book with that prestige format because it is necessary for how big this story is. But The Forged is all about a very sci-fi world where there's a group of people who are called the Forged, who are essentially the elite soldiers who protect the Empress, who has been running our world, this world specifically, for a very long time. And she is needing protection in several ways, and that includes also protecting what she calls her Cassandras, who are her women who can see the future, who protect her by telling her what is going to happen. Well, some of them have gone rogue and are attempting to kill her, and some have gone rogue and are trying to explain to us that the Empress is not the good person that we always thought she was. And in fact, some of the alien creatures that she is determined to destroy are actually possibly the good guys the whole time. And so our team of the Forged recently thought that they lost their leader in Captain Victory, but we have found her to be quite all right, and possibly all right is a loose term, but she is out on this space planet trying to deal with the situation and stop the Empress from destroying it before an unnecessary war is brought to them. And she ends up her own team coming to that planet to lay the traps to destroy this planet. And so she must convince them to commit treason and stand beside her and the Cassandra that is going against the Empress. And we are going to see if she's able to convince them to do that by the end of this issue. I love these because there's so much to them. Like, they're already like super thick. They almost read like novels because of how much Greg Rucka is putting into it. And then there's just this beautiful, like I said, IMAX level art. It is definitely the space opera that he is describing it as. Tales of the Bazaar, issue 7 from Drin Productions. This is all about a witch who is trapped inside of like this globe, and she's trying to get out of it, and the only way she can is by like generating enough juice by telling stories. And so in this one we get a couple different stories. The first one is of a woman who on her way home from somewhere at night, she is almost hit by a car, and a man saves her, and she ends up inviting him home with her to her house, and is like, don't worry, like, you know, I don't think it's weird that you're like an alien man, like, come home with me, like, I'd just love to give you some coffee and thank you for your time. And her way of thanking people is not very nice. And then we also have a story of a guy who learns how to essentially astral project his body. And so he goes out into the street in his neighborhood and is just trying to look into each person's house and see what's going on. And we see how that is not necessarily ever a good idea. And then our last story involves the 1940s German army trying to use the aliens to find a new place to put their base. And the way they are going to like misuse that and what is going to happen to them when they make the choices to misuse people and mistreat them, and how they're going to hopefully get their comeuppance. Always great news stories in this each time. A great little anthology of fun stories that are just a little bit more like sci-fi horror than they are just like plain horror. Hollowed, issue 7 from Keenspot, wrapping up this story this week. This is started out as one story and has completely become something else. Let me just say that. It started out as a detective story of a butcher who was killing everybody in the neighborhood, and the man that was the detective wasn't good enough to like solve it according to his own jurisdiction, so they brought in a detective from another place, and it was like New York and Chicago fighting against each other. Well, those two guys have since found out that they are actually connected in a very detailed way to each other and to this like secret alien race that's been inhabiting Earth, and all of the stuff that has been going down is actually connected to this alien invasion that they need to figure out how to stop themselves. And it has gone super far out in different directions, and they have wrapped it up as these two come together in a way that they had no intention of ever doing before to fight this battle at the end. The Edge, issue 6 from Comicsburg. We talked about earlier, you know, if you're a fan of classic like 90s superhero style stories, this is definitely going to give you a little bit of that feel in that as well with The Edge, as we are getting some very Image-esque style heroes in this. We've seen them kind of come together over the last 6 issues, and they've been fighting this ultimate bad guy who actually like came from their own group and has been developing like his own battle against them. And so we're seeing like sides shift and all that. Well, in this issue, we're at that point where we're starting to see a lot of the team really crumble. We're seeing people who have been like our most powerful just suddenly find themselves with no powers at all. We're seeing some people get put to the test and not pass. We're seeing some people who are told like you're going to be the leaders, really just kind of losing it all left and right. And so our team is falling apart. And we're going to hope that when issue 7 comes back, that hopefully they can put it all back together again, because there are still all the threats that they need to stop to help save the world. So hopefully they can put it all back together again. We've got The Nowhere Man, issue 6 from Bad Kids Press. Man, I'm going to say this right now. Every time I think, oh, this is probably the last issue of Nowhere Man, they just make it keep going, and like in a great way. If you don't know Nowhere Man, this is about a guy who kind of in issue 1 almost has like that Twilight Zone kind of experience where he wakes up in a town and it's like, I've been to this town before. Everything looks kind of familiar. Like I think my dad used to perform comedy there. And it's in that he almost realizes, or essentially realizes, that he's kind of in like a purgatory or an afterlife situation. And now for the last 6 issues, he's been wandering this desert beyond that keeps leading him to different people in different places. And all of those different people and places are all gods of different things that he's interacting with, and he's just learning these philosophical lessons from. And this is no exception in issue 6, as he arrives at a town that he hasn't seen before, and it's all very technologically advanced, but there seems to be no people there except for this one man who's like, I have to keep working all of my job, like I have to do the things I'm supposed to do. And they wander around because they hear somebody who's calling for help, and as they try to help this person, they learn that not everybody's idea of what they are and who they are and what they're supposed to do is the same. And he kind of gets to learn a little bit more about himself and the things that he should carry on as he interacts with some new gods in this issue. If you haven't read it yet, it's very much like reading like an off the wall, like crazy indie comic version of like a Twilight Zone. Katie Blackdragon, issue 6, also from Bad Kids Press. We're about to go on a Bad Kids Press run right here, which is always fantastic. Katie Blackdragon cracks me up. I love her so much. She is that she is the vigilante with the bad attitude, bounty hunter kind of situation that we see a lot in male characters, but we don't really get the female character who acts like this. And so I kind of just love having Katie as that for us. But she's gone on a lot of different adventures. Each one of these stories is always just a standalone. And so in this issue, Katie is offered a job for a woman who is like ultra rich, and she's like, I don't know, she's not offering enough money, and they're like, that's just the amount of money she wants to meet with you. And Katie's like, all right, never mind, I'll take the job. And so all the job is Katie needs to go out and hunt down this man that is on a picture that the woman gives her. And so the whole quest is Katie going through all of these different places, trying to find a person that can give her leads to find the guy that she's been hunting for. And we get to see some funny moments. We get to see some Katie being like completely awesome at her job moments. And we also get, as with all Katie Black Dragon stories, some hearts that comes at the end of it. But I love it because every time Katie gets to these places where there's always somebody in each story that's got like one of those lying bots that's supposed to tell whether or not Katie is lying as she makes up these outlandish things. And every time they're like, no, that's real. And for those of us who are reading the story, it's like we've actually already saw those things happen in the previous issues. Katie's just got a crazy lie. We've got The Adventures of the Galactic Wrestling Federation, issue 6, also from Bad Kids Press. This is the story of the Red Menace, who has an excellent wine, might I add. And the Red Menace is a robot who is a wrestler, and he actually sees his dad get killed during a match and has sworn, justice will be given at some point over his lifetime. And he hasn't managed to do that yet. And he's kind of trying to get out of the business because he's just angry and bitter. And now he's like, feels like he's had his chance at like some of the people that he wanted vengeance on, but he hasn't been able to get it on everybody. And he's hiding out on a planet where he is like, I'm just going to stay out of it. I don't want to do this anymore. And a friend, a brother, if you will, comes to him and is like, I was sent by Mama, who is both like his mama, but also like the person in charge of the wrestling federation. He's like, I was sent by her to come get you and bring you back. And I came up with an elaborate scheme that is going to actually just push you towards it, and you're not going to have any choice. And we see that elaborate scheme is just some really terrible angering of people who he's going to have to fight his way through in order to get back. But we do see Mama continuing to scheme to get him back into the ring as it's happening. And so we're going to see if Red Menace can get his revenge soon. I'm really thinking that we're going to see a big battle coming his way. And I hope he wins. I just feel really bad for the Red Menace. He's just so sweet, and he just wants to be happy. We've got Masterpiece, issue 6 from Dark Horse Comics, and this is the end of this story as well. This is a great game of chess, a very Ocean's 11 style experience for Brian Michael Bendis, and is all about a young girl who is known as Masterpiece. And basically what we learn is that her parents were spies long before, and there's a man who was responsible for their murder, and now he's coming after her. And she's like, okay, I don't know what I have to do with any of this. And they're like, oh, well, it turns out you're like a super spy. You're an ultimate genius. And she's like, okay, well, I'm not going to continue to waste my life living in fear. I'm also not going to let the man who killed my parents get away with it. And so she hatches her own scheme and builds her own team, and they come up with one of the best revenge ideas to come after this guy with. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because you have to read it. Like, I thought it was just going to be like the standard, like, we're going to rob this guy of everything he has. But no, they take this a little bit further, and the nice little twist that we get in this issue that brings that all together and shows off what this team can really do was super good. And you got to check it out. We've got Feral, issue 5 from Image, and this is our return to the creative team of Stray Dogs, giving us a new horror story featuring animals. And so this one's kind of a a zombie apocalypse with cats. And so basically there is a wild outbreak that if any animal gets it, causes them to go mad. We know that as rabies in the human world. The animals do not know what that is. So to them, it's just kind of a zombie apocalypse. And we, up until this point, we had been with a group of about 5 cats who got together after being in a dog catcher's car, and now they are coming they've come home essentially to the home of one of our 3 of the cats. And they make some poor choices because they got a young kitten with them who's stupid and adorable, but also just dumb. And he's made some choices, and it's led them into some really dark places. And now all of our cats are kind of getting separated in this issue. And we're going to see if anybody can make it out, but it's definitely going to keep going. I know Stray Dogs, kind of ended at that issue 5. This is not the end for this. This is definitely just opened up a giant can of worms to keep us going with this story. We still don't know where, one of our friends has wandered off to. We've got some new friends in a crazy way. I mean, honestly, this feels very Walking Dead, but with cats. So you got to check it out if you love those things. Edie, You Are What Eats You, issue 5 from Blood Moon Comics, and this is the end of Edie's story, and it is so good. So this is very much kind of your Blob kind of story, but after something happens to a young girl named Edie, nobody believes her when she files some claims, and in the process of that, she is also met with a blob that gives her an insatiable hunger. And Edie decides the best way to feed that hunger is to go after all of the people who have harmed her, or who didn't believe her, or who have just mistreated her. And her best friend has tried to get her to stop. And in this issue, Edie's like, "Don't worry, I got it under control. I'm not even dealing with it anymore." And we find out that Edie is full of it, and by it I mean people. In this issue, as she continues to go off after even more, but we are going to see how Edie and her best friend are going to deal with what is eating her and what she is eating by the end of this story, so that we can get a wrap up. And again, I absolutely loved the way it did wrap up. It was such a good ending for this story. So if you haven't checked it out yet, all 5 issues are out, and there is going to be a trade paperback, which is not something we see a lot from some of the smaller presses like this, but I already have a copy of the trade paperback, so I know it exists. I'm going to take a drink of this wine before I keep going. It's so weird because, the rain comes really heavy and then stops, and it gets super quiet in here. Or super loud, so it's crazy, just to hear it come and go. Okay, we've got Sam and Twitch Case Files, issue 5 from Image Comics and your Spawn universe. Holy crap. I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I know I've said this on Sam and Twitch before. I've never cared about, the expanded world of the Spawn universe. I have not kept up with 350-something issues of Spawn. But I really wanted to check out this one because Simon Kodransky is on art. And I'm loving this story. So if you haven't read it, if you don't know Sam and Twitch, they're apparently detectives in the Spawn universe. But in this story, Twitch has decided that Sam is just too abrasive and he needs a break away from him. So he goes to visit a friend who is a detective in a small town, and he's like, "I'm taking this break by helping you solve this case." A case where there's all these crazy situations where people are being killed and hung up on scarecrow posts and stuff, and weird things are happening. And so Twitch has started to solve this case, only now we've seen that there's some shady cops, and I mean, we know more than he does, but there's a lot of shadiness going on in the situation, and a lot of people who are corrupt and evil and doing all kinds of bad things, and Twitch has no idea, or at least he didn't until this issue, and now he's in trouble. But guess what? Twitch has been not answering anybody's phone calls and ignoring Sam and telling him to leave him alone, and so now he's out in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of people who are corrupt, and bad things are happening, and is anybody going to come for him? We're going to find out in issue 6. I don't know. I'm hoping so. But the cool thing is like most of those Spawn books that McFarlane puts out, this is only $2.99. So you can try it out for a lower price point and figure out if it's going to be something for you. Okay, so we thought that the One Hand was the end of the One Hand Six Fingers crossover, but there was one more issue with the Six Fingers, issue 5, and now this is in theory the end of our story, but this is also from Image Comics, and so this has been a companion piece story that followed a place where a detective had thought that he had put away a serial killer multiple times, but it turns out that like every time he does it, a few years later we find a new person, a possible copycat, coming his way with the same exact situation, the same kind of murders, the same everything. And so the Six Fingers is actually the story from the serial killer's point of view. And while we've seen the detective side wrapped up, so we already know what happens, we haven't seen it from the serial killer's point of view until right now. And so in this issue, we actually get to see him kind of caught and brought in and work stuff out. And if you know what happened in the One Hand, you kind of have an idea of just exactly how much we're dealing with and how crazy, like to the left, like, you know, weird, strange, not like left like political, but like, you know, left turn kind of thing we took with where this was going. Like, this didn't end up being just a typical detective versus serial killer story. There was so much more to it, and as you plug yourself into what is happening on this world and in this story, you're gonna see exactly what I mean by that. But also, like, you get to this issue and you're like, is anything real? Does anything matter? Is this guy actually like the correct one and like the detective? Like, I'm at the end of both sides of the story, and now it's like, I mean, was I supposed to walk away feeling like maybe this guy was the one that was the most sane out of everybody? And does that mean that I've gone crazy? Like, is this guy crazy? Like, and I'm like falling into the trap of of what's happening, like, as well? I don't know. But it left you with all these questions and questioning yourself and your sanity and the reliability of every narrator on both books, which is such a cool thing. I really do hope that they make like one omnibus that has like both of them, both the One Hand and the Six Fingers in it, but also at the same time, like, if they do trade paperbacks of both different sizes, like, stories, and you could read one or the other, that would work too. But like, omnibus it, please, because when you read both of them together, you're like, I have no idea what's real and what isn't, and that's so cool. Speaking of not knowing what's real and what isn't, we have Under Heist issue 5 from Boom Studios. This is about a robbery that goes beyond wrong, possibly left everybody dead 5 issues ago. We're, again, not really sure. Basically, a man sets up one last job and he builds his team, and over the course of 5 issues, we find out that, like, when they try to get away, they might not have. They might all be kind of in purgatory and they might be dead. Or that might just be him losing it. You know, because what is reality? But he has been trying to figure out how to pay off the bookie for the money that he stole and get all of those balances back in line so that he can save the soul of the woman he loves. The problem with that is that the woman he's married to, or is that the woman that he did the heist with, who's always been the woman that he loved like his whole life, but it didn't necessarily work out. So who is he going to save, and is there actually saving anybody? That is a question for a more reliable narrator, but you're going to find out one way or another as you go along on their heist. Uncanny Valley issue 4 from Boom Studios. This is for all of you Roger Rabbit fans. This is such a great story, and so far, for even the kids who want to read a story, this definitely stays pretty young. But this is like young, like safe for young people. There's nothing that's been terribly adult or mature in it. But for those of you who haven't checked it out yet, this is about a young boy who, on his way home from school one day, finds out that some people are after him, specifically some crows, but they're there for some people. And his mom tries to keep him safe, but in the process, there's, it just becomes too outlandish, and he realizes that there's only one person who can save him, and that is essentially this Yosemite Sam looking guy, who just happens to be his grandpa, because the kid is, in fact, not entirely human. And now he has been dragged into the world of all of your favorite cartoons, where they are trying to get him to the one who is supposed to help save him. At least that's what the grandpa has been taught, but that is not the case, and things are not as they seem. And we are learning exactly what that means in this issue as things kind of come to a head. We also get the backstory of the mother being raised by the Yosemite Sam type guy, and learning what it was like to be a human in this cartoon world, and kind of like what her experience was and how she ended up making the choice to go to the human world. We get all of that backstory in this issue, so there's a lot of heart into it. Just in time for Tony Fleece to just probably destroy it all. Your heart, not the story. The story is still fantastic, but check it out. This is just an absolutely fantastic story so far for somebody who's looking for some fun and heartfelt adventure. We've got Orcs, The Gift, issue 4 from Kaboom, which is the kid line of Boom Studios. But honestly and truthfully, like, there's so much to this story, and this is like our third arc of it, that if you at least maybe fourth, that you adults who just love fantasy stories are really going to fall into this one. And in this volume, we've been following along as one of the kid orcs has been given the powers that they didn't necessarily want the responsibility to have, and are training now with the elder orc of the town to kind of learn how to use these powers and essentially be the spirit guide for the community. Meanwhile, they also have their mother tree, which is giving them the power and kind of keeping everybody safe, like in all the different realms of people. And in this issue specifically, they are with the mother tree when the prince of the wolves comes and is like, oh my gosh, like, I've been attacked. I need to get this help. And when they try to go in and like use magic to stop it, it actually causes the magic to go through the tree, damaging the tree and hurting the elves, the orcs, the wolves, everybody all at once. They all have to kind of team together to fight this battle and try to save their world tree that they have in their mother tree. And it's just a great story of people coming together and of learning what really matters most, and overcoming differences to fight together for those things. And I was like cheering at parts of it and screaming at other parts, and really just happy to see my orc friends go on this adventure once again. This is the wrap up of this arc. And the good thing that they do with orcs is that each arc is like, it gets its own like subheading, and they all get collected like as that arc. So they're great for young readers who might want to find some fantasy stories. I know a lot of young kids who are like, I really like D&D or Lord of the Rings, and orcs ends up being their comic of choice when they come in, because they feel like it encapsulates all of that. So older readers as well, if you're looking for something that will fit into that but has a little bit more of that humor that would make kids love it, that's going to be a good one for you. We've got Rook Exodus issue 4 from Image and the Ghost Machine imprint. This is the story of human nature destroying the world, and us having to find a new planet, and a corporation builds us a great place to live on a new planet in space. And guess what? We destroy that one too, because we're really good at that. And so one of the things that they had done is they had brought in animals to live on this planet, but in order to try to help keep them safe and keep us safe from them, as they brought in all these wild animals, they created what were called wardens, who had these helmets that allowed them to talk to and control the animals. Well, now that this planet is destroyed, there's not very many people left on it, except for the wardens and a couple of like their followers and things like that. And so our main character, Rook, oversees all of the crows and birds. And he is kind of a loner, but is trying to get off the planet, but has now had to team up with some people because his best friend was slaughtered by some bad guys who are absolutely out to collect all of the warden helmets and just destroy everybody and everything. And so Rook has teamed up with Direwolf to try to get to the one remaining settlement and kind of see if they can figure out how to save people and get off this planet. And they are now going against some really cool bad guys, including one who has the power to control snakes, and she is super cool. I'm super excited to see more of her because she's so creepy and awesome and snake-like. But we're going to see if Rook can put this all back together, or if he can even save himself, because he's not doing so well in this story. But the birds aren't really helping him at all. So, because I told you, birds aren't helpful. We've got Operation Sunshine. Does it have us? Yeah, Already Dead. This is second volume of Operation Sunshine. This is issue 4 and the final, and this is from Dark Horse as well. This is about a world where we've got original, what we call OVs, the original vampires, and then they've got humans who they turn into vampires, who are their bugs essentially, and they kind of use to do their bidding. Well, one of the OVs has decided that he hates the way that the ruling power of the vampires has been running things, and he wants to take over and put them back on track to be less vile, terrible people. And so he comes to a couple of humans and a couple bugs, and they build their own heist plan as a way to try to get back this heart and this essential piece of stuff that he needs in order to be in charge and to rule over them. And so we have been following along. The first volume was all about putting the plan together. This volume has been about them enacting it. And this issue is all about whether or not they can actually get it done. And if any of them will survive, and what that survival will look like for them. So if you like vampires and you want some funny ways to see them battle against each other as they try to restore some crazy worlds, that's going to be a good one for you. We've got Drawing Blood issue 4 from Image Comics. This is such a good series. I love this series so much. This is all about a comic creator who goes by the name of Books, who created a team of anthropomorphic animals that are ninjas and fight and do cool things. And it got really big when they made a TV show, like a cartoon out of it, and all kinds of stuff, and lots of merchandising. And he blew all of his money and did a lot of drugs and got in line with some terrible bookies who now want his money. And he, in this issue, is going to a Comic-Con. And at this Comic-Con, he is, right before he's supposed to go do a signing, it comes out that the movie producers who are turning his characters into a movie are going to make them aliens. They're going to change the story. They're not mutants. They're aliens now. And everybody's mad about it. And they're like, oh my God, you betrayed the fans. You let that happen. And so he's got to figure out how to go to his panel. He cancels the signing. It's like, I have to go to this panel and I have to figure out a way to save it. And then we kind of get to see we always get to see a backstory, which is, really cool. Kevin Eastman backstories. Actually, in this issue, he meets Kevin Eastman, but he's unnamed, and it's hilarious. But in this one, he also gets to meet a creator. He goes and wanders Artist Alley in a costume, and he meets a creator who has her own story and is kind of just like, I just want to be an indie creator. I want to make these cool characters. I don't want people telling me what to do. I don't want to be a sellout like that Books guy. And he realizes the power of creating comics and everything he loved about them in the first place. And so when he goes to his panel, he comes up with a really great way to get around everything that the director and producer of the movie wants him to say, and just kind of starts to bring the the power back to his world and his fandom, and starts to remember why he wanted to make comics in the first place and what's so great about being a comic creator. I love it. It's so great. When the Blood Has Dried, issue 4 from Mad Cave. This is all about a woman who was in an adventurers guild, and prior to the story starting, we see her get, she was attacked. They were attacked in one of the battles, and she was left for dead. The guild just like left her behind, didn't even help her get away. Possible betrayal is, some things we've learned since then. And so she ended up finding a new place to live and running a tavern and just kind of accepting her life in this town and being very much way more happy. But now that guild and the very person who betrayed her have shown up literally on her doorstep and are trying to claim her tavern to use for the guild so that they can turn it into a housing for the guild members as they come to this town, to force them to follow along with their rule and their leadership. And she ends up, in the last issue, she challenged the guild member to a competition that he could name the stakes for, or the rules for, but she named the stakes, and that was that she would get to keep her bar and they would leave. And he was like, if I win, you have to, join the guild and we get everything you have, kind of thing. Well, in the very first panel of this issue, she wins that battle, but guess what? They don't ever follow by the rules because this guy has no honor and integrity at all. And so we're going to see how that plays out over the course of this issue and the issues to come. And I really, really hope that she destroys them in every way possible, because she's so cool and they're trash. The end. That's the whole story. Creature from the Black Lagoon lives, issue 4 from Image Skybound, with this beautiful Jenny Frison variant cover. I love Jenny Frison's covers, and I think that the color choices that she used brought to this cover were fantastic. This is actually really not the story of the Creature of the Black Lagoon at all. This is about a girl who is being chased by a man, or was, I guess, attacked by a man a long time ago, and now she is chasing him. He's kind of a serial killer, and she has followed him down into the place where the Creature from the Black Lagoon lives, and is determined to kill him and destroy him herself. He has lost his ever-loving mind, living out in this place, and is now trying to, say that the reason he's done everything he's ever done is because him and the creature are kindred spirits, and he's trying to essentially morph himself into the creature. And she's like, I've seen the creature, he's a better person than you, you've got nothing on him. And so she has to face her monsters, literally. And so this is her dealing with all of that, and who she wants to be and what choices she wants to make about her future, and how the creature is going to view humanity through her eyes and through this story is really cool. So if you are a Creature from the Black Lagoon fan, this is the wrap-up of this story. All of our Universal Monster stories are only 4 issues. We've now had Dracula, we've had Creature. Coming up next is Frankenstein by Michael Walsh, and it is going to be a very interesting tell of where all of the different body parts come from that create the creature, the monster, whatever. We've got Minor Threats, The Fastest Way Down, issue 4 from Dark Horse, and this is the wrap-up of this volume of Minor Threats. If you haven't read Minor Threats before, I love it because they do give you a really great synopsis of what Minor Threats is about every time you step into the story. But Minor Threats is all about exactly that, the lower level villains of a superhero world. And in the first arc, we got to see them take on the situation because a superhero was killed and nobody knew who did it, and the villains and the heroes couldn't stop fighting each other, so the minor villains went out and actually solved the case and dealt with everybody involved. And since then, Playtime, who was our main character in that story, has actually taken over and is working to restore the balance to society, essentially by keeping those villains in check and kind of just also keeping the heroes at bay. And just doing the good things and the bad things and kind of just being what her town needs. Well, a new group of superheroes have come about who are kind of like the Teen Titans essentially, and they want to get revenge on her for all of the things that happened that they blame her for. And so they are making all kinds of wrong choices, and they essentially become villainesque up until this issue. And now in this issue, they have kidnapped her daughter, and they are holding her hostage as an attempt to make Playtime come out and deal with them. And they kind of have to take a moment and realize, like, are we the villains of this story, or are we the heroes? And they have some choices to make, and so does she, because she realizes that much like she became a villain because her mother led her down that path, is she leading her own daughter down that path, or is she going to give her the opportunity to make her own choices? And so really great story. I actually really liked this volume even more than the first one, and it really made me want to go back and like reread all of Minor Threats because this volume was so good. Blood Squad 7 issue 3 from Image Comics. Again, like I said, putting 90s superhero style, like Image 90s superheroes into the now. So this is what if we did have one of those teams from the 90s and they had risen to celebrity status and everybody was talking about them, and now 30 years later it's like, hey, we need some superheroes, and so they're like, let's bring back that team. And so they bring back one of the members of the team, and she's now in charge of building out the new team. Well, the first person that she brings, like they bring back onto her team from the original group, turns out he's gone off the deep end and has become a serial killer and is using his time as like his places that he goes to do superhero work. Like he's then turning around and like going to brothels and sleeping with the women and then killing them and doing other stuff. And so she has to build a new team of the young kids coming up and take them out on an attempt to actually like bring him down. And so we are going to see a new group of heroes who are like, hey, the way y'all did things was never good, and maybe there's a reason why you shouldn't have brought back the old people. And we're going to see these young kids start to put it all together, hopefully, and maybe take him down. Maybe they're all gonna die. Who knows? Nobody's been able to stop this guy yet, so we're gonna see. But it's also really cool to see because we do actually see, because they are a government-led team, it's like, oh, well, we have to make the choice that's like the best for the press. We can't just make the choice that's like best for what would actually take him down. Like, we have to also keep in mind that this has to look good on the government too. And so it's cool to see the politics and the press and everything behind all of the choices that they make at the same time, which gives an extra layer of greatness to the story. The Land Left Behind, issue 3 from Blood Moon Comics. This is literally just like, what if you took a bunch of knights and while they were on a quest, they got taken back in time to the land of the dinosaurs? What would that look like? And we are going to see that as we read the story. So we have the first female knight in their group who happens to be in love with the scholar that's on the trip. But while they are there, literally, they go through a canyon and they find themselves suddenly on the other side, surrounded by dinosaurs, and they have been dealing with these dinosaurs the whole time. But the like guy in charge doesn't want to leave. Like, he's like, no, we have to study this. We have to be the ones who discover it. We have to be the ones who know all of this and claim it. And they're like, we need to get the crap out of here. And so now, since they're stuck there, they're trying to find water in this issue. But along the way, all they do find is more monsters and more dinosaurs who are coming for them. And it's not going really well. I don't know how many people are going to be left by the time they get out of here, because you can't beat dinosaurs. Like, we've proven that. The only thing that's beaten the dinosaurs is a meteor. So these people don't really have much of a chance. Judgment Day, issue 3 from Archie Comics. This is the wrap-up of this story. And this is all about Archie coming to deal with a demon apocalypse kind of situation. Basically, somebody has taken over Riverdale, and all of these demons are inhabiting people's bodies, and Archie has kind of been working as like the guy killing everybody and kind of bringing everybody to justice, but he feels like he can't do a good enough job, so he goes to Madame Satan and asks her for some assistance. And of course she like puts a demon inside of him, and Jughead has been trying to keep Archie at bay over the last 3 issues and is like, don't give in to the darkness, like, we can save our friends. If you kill them, we're never going to be able to save them. They're just gonna die. But if we can talk them down and we can save them a different way, maybe we won't lose everybody, Arch. And Archie doesn't go with that. And in this issue, he kind of like leans himself completely over to the demon and the dark side. And we see what happens when Archie goes mad. And we see it all in this beautiful Megan Hutchison art, which is super cool. I would totally hang up like that Demon Archie poster because it's so wicked, like that pinup in the middle. But it's you know, Madame Satan's got her own plans all the time, and I don't know why anybody ever trusts her in the Riverdale like universe, but for some reason they keep doing it, and those Chilling Adventures just keep chilling. But if you haven't checked this out yet, this is all 3 issues. Check it out. It's just another one, a great installment into your Archie Madhouse. We've got Grommets, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is such a fun summer read. Honestly, this needs to be on your list of things to read in summertime from now on. But this is all about a couple kids who are living their best lives, trying to be skateboarders and be cool back in the 80s. And you see the classic, like, oh, we got to go hang out at the mall. Let's go to the arcade. Let's do all those kinds of things. And so in this issue, they meet up with a guy who's like, hey, let's hang out. Let's like go out and get high and live our best lives. And they're like, we don't do that. And he's like, well, you should, you know, Matthew McConaughey style. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. And so they go to the mall, which I love that they go to a Spencer's, and like they're literally like, I don't have enough money to help you with this. I only have money for Spencer's, dude. And I'm like, these guys are totally buying blacklight posters and like ridiculous stuff, because of what else do you buy at Spencer's in the 80s and 90s? And so they go to Spencer's, and then they go try to build things that they can smoke their stuff out of, and then they go to the arcade, and these kids who have never smoked before are just completely and totally baked, and they're like, hey, since like my grandpa's out of town, I should totally invite over the hottest girls in school, and like they'll come hang out with us. But these kids are already awkward and terrible, and now they're high, so they're like completely and totally unable to have a conversation with anybody. And like the one kid's like sitting in the corner behind the arcade games and is like, they know, man, they know, like they totally, they're coming for me. And so it's honestly, it's just classic like teen hijinks for like middle school, high school like kids in the days before cell phones. So check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't read it yet, there are second prints of issue 1, which is probably the only way that you're going to get it. But it's a fun story that I know a lot of people have really been loving. Silicone Bandits, issue 3 from Magma Comics. It is the year 2089, and we are in a world that's like post-United States, and this new country is kind of run by like the tech people. And basically, if you don't have a skill that makes you more valuable than a really, really advanced android, you just basically don't have a place in this society. And there's 2 scientists, Kinji and Aurora, who create the ultimate androids who are essentially able to do and think for themselves, and they get fired because it's like, hey, now that the androids can create their own androids, we don't need scientists anymore. And they're mad about it, and they're worried that they're going to lose everything, and so they decide to plan a heist where they're going to go back in and steal all of the supplies essentially that it takes to make these androids. And the way they're going to do it is with the secret android family that Kinji has created. But the thing that they didn't plan for is A, human error, in that one of Kinji's old friends shows up, and he's a thief and a liar, and he cons them his way into the heist, and then totally like screws them over immediately afterwards. But the other thing that they didn't account for is you've created androids who can think for themselves, and they realize that's what they want to do. And so now this heist, everybody on this team is kind of like in it for themselves. And Aurora's like, we're going to die. Like, all of these people are coming after us, and we have nothing to use to protect us, and no, like, our plan is completely gone. And Kinji just like keeps going forward with the plan, and it's not going well. And we're gonna find out if they make it out alive at all, and what these androids decide to do as the story continues. We've got Sanction issue 3 from Mad Cave. This is all about a detective in the Soviet-Russian time period. I believe it is the 80s in the story. And he is one of the, yes, 1987. He is one of those detectives who is actually interested in solving the cases, but everybody else is kind of just like, stamp, check it off, move on. You don't want to get involved in anything that could put you on the radar of, some darker people. And he can't let anything go. And so when a woman in the first issue is found dead on the street, he has to investigate it, and now he has found himself going down a rabbit hole where more and more bodies are showing up. And in this issue, they try to get him to back down, and instead he goes further in and finds out that there are 3 people who were murdered out of town and nowhere near the usual place, but it's just enough that makes him think it could be connected. And so he goes out into this wilderness to try to solve the case, and his partner that joins him is like completely against actually helping him with this case. But we find out that there is something going on here that's bigger than that we ever believed, but it's not going well for our friends, and hopefully they can piece it all together before it's too late. We've got Ninja Turtles, Black, White, and Green, issue 3 from IDW. This is an anthology story that features different fun tales for the Ninja Turtles, like all of our like Black, White, and Reds, except this one is green. And the first story is from Jock, and it's all about the turtles fighting some mutant animal who, every time they attack him and he gets cut, it spews the mutagen out, and so anything that it spills onto immediately like mutates and changes into something else. And so they are having trouble fighting against all of the things, and they have to figure out how they can defeat this bad guy before it's too late. And then we have a second story where Raphael is kind of manipulated into helping this girl who swears that she needs help saving her sister, and she kind of, convinces Raph that he's the only one who can do it because it needs somebody who's going to break the rules if that's the case. And Raph realizes that, maybe sometimes he needs to rely on his brothers a little more than he wants to, which is good because he does. He needs to learn to put aside that anger and focus the way Master Splinter taught him to. And then we get a story of the guys going down on vacation and meeting a friend you may recognize, and going on, I believe they're in Miami. And Michelangelo has learned about churros, or is it chicharrones? Which one does he learn about? He learns about chicharrones, and so he's like, I've got to figure out what these are. This is going to be great. And then he ends up making a new friend and bonding over food, which is what Michelangelo does. And teaching the idea that, like, if you are nice to people, people will be nice to you. And then the last story is April helping the guys fight against Baxter Stockman and some of the usual lineup of suspects. And so you really get some cool stories in here. All of these have featured 4 stories. Originally, I thought that they were going to be like one story that followed like each turtle, but it's actually just like random stories of all of them. We've got The Butcher's Boy, issue 3 from Dark Horse. This is such a wild, crazy story. If you haven't jumped into it yet, this is all about a group of friends, God, who always go to the same place every year, but one of the for their vacation. But one of the guys starts dating a new girl, and she's like, "Hey, well, on the way to that, like, what if we stopped by, I'm going to show it to you anyway. What if we stopped by this cool place that's in one of my horror podcasts that I want to go to?" And they go to eat at this restaurant, and they eat, like, all of the ones who actually eat at the restaurant, like anything with meat in it, start feeling really sick. And while they're there, they hear the story of the butcher's boy and, like, all the weird stuff that happened with this, like, crazy killer back in the day. And they're like, "We have to get out of here." And all this weird stuff starts happening, like, hours later, and they all get sicker and sicker, and then they start getting, like, crazy, like, serial killer kind of crazy, and weird stuff is happening. And you think that we're getting to, like, final girl level moments kind of situation with some of the characters, and then we get some twists and turns, and I don't really know what's gonna happen. We started the series, like, opens up like right around where we are right now, so we're kind of like coming back to that, but we got some big reveals in this one that are just gonna lead us down some darker places. All right, we've got Dick Tracy issue 3 from Mad Cave coming up next. This is the story of Dick Tracy. This is all about one of the oldest comic book detectives coming back your way, and this is all about basically in the very first issue we see a murder happen that takes place inside of a diner, and it kills some really prominent people in the community, and they bring in the young Dick Tracy to solve this case. And he has started trying to piece it together, but every kind of twist and turn he goes down seems to lead to more and more people being exposed to this case and being a part of it. And as he's working with some of his, a friend of his, and Tess Trueheart, who is a journalist who also lost her father in that shooting, he is like building a team of people who are going to help him solve this. But they, like I said, they keep finding places where they'll go in and they're like, "Okay, we've got this, like, we've got the situation under control, we've figured it out," and then they get there and something happens and everything kind of just turns completely on its side. In the point to where Dick Tracy has learned that there may be some corruption in his police department, and so while he's always the upstanding guy who is going to solve the case, classically true and true, he actually may have used too much naivete and believing in the other people in his own force. And now he is finding out that all of the things that he's relied on to help solve this case might not be so reliable in the end. And so he's starting to doubt whether or not he should even bring his friends into the mix with him, but he's going to have to in order to solve the case. They're not going to let him leave them behind, and we're going to see if Dick Tracy can solve it. We're also going to see, like, who the last man standing is, essentially, because it definitely feels like we're leading towards, like, one person trying to take over the town, and we're going to find out who that one person will be in the end. We've got William of Newbury, issue 3 from Dark Horse. I believe I called this the most adorable exorcism book that you ever going to read the last time I talked about this, and it just continues to be that. This is about an adorable little raccoon who is a priest who really just wants to help save all of the people who are, like, just trapped. Their spirits are trapped in different ways, who need exorcisms, and there is all kinds of, like, mystic bad things happening. And in the very first issue, basically the church tells him he's not allowed to go out and do that anymore, and he must stay behind, and he refuses to fall into line with what they have for him. So he is going out and doing it anyway, and we find out that the person in charge of the priesthood and the church is actually his brother. And so we get the backstory in this issue of why they don't want him to go out and what it is that makes William want to save everybody so much. And they are coming for him to arrest him, which they do in issue 2, and he gets away long enough to go after a situation that's happening in another town where he is hoping to stop a rabid priest, essentially, who has become possessed and is actually causing more harm than good. And William gets, once again, approached by his own people to go back, and we're going to see if William is able to get away yet again, or if he must face the consequences for his incredibly good actions. So we've got the Scale Trade issue 3, also from Magma Comics. Everybody's always asking me, where are the dragon books? And this is your dragon book on the shelf, and it's fantastic. This is about a guy who becomes a detective for the DCA, which is a branch of the government, the police force, essentially, that stops dragon trading, because dragons are real in this world, and people are using them for their oils and for their scales and for their wings and for their meat. And so there is one group of the branch of the military, the police, that's actually in charge of stopping that from happening. And so this new guy is come in, and he's found the dragon that he saved on his first mission, that he's like, I'm going to raise this dragon and it's now my best friend. But he's also been put with like the veteran member of the force, and this guy is up to some shady stuff. We're not really sure like what exactly it is that he's up to going into this issue, though in this conversation we do actually learn a lot about what that stuff is. And so we're going to be able to kind of have a little bit of a guide to what we know that our main character doesn't. And meanwhile, he is doing his own investigation, and he's got his little dragon by his side on it. And it's so funny because like in this scene, the guy's like, oh my god, don't burn me alive, like don't let your dragon breathe fire on me. And the guy's like, dragons don't. And he's like, wait, yes they do, they totally breathe fire. But it's fun to see him try to learn how to be an investigator and how to learn to be the tough guy, when really all he wants to do is just like save dragons and cuddle with them. And it's so cute, and I love the duality of his character so much. But we're gonna see if he can figure this out. And obviously, like, there's never gonna be like a complete resolution, because there's always gonna be bad people who are trying to trade these dragons. But we're gonna see if he can at least figure out the situation with his partner. I'm gonna take another drink. All right, go team. We've got Self-Help issue 2 from Image in the Syzygy imprint. This book is hilariously amazing adult version of the Prince and the Pauper story, as we have a guy who apparently was in prison, we learn in this issue, prior to the story, but turns out he looks exactly like the self-help guru of the world. And in issue 1, he is working as an Uber driver, and he happens to meet said self-help guru, and some stuff goes down, and he makes the choice to essentially trade places with that guy through said stuff that goes down that I'm not going to tell you what it is. And so he shows up to this meeting that the guy is supposed to be at, where we find out that the self-help guru is in for a lot of money with some very bad people who want to fund his program to like take it to the next level, but are also like trying to get some stuff out of it. Meanwhile, he's also supposed to be helping the daughter of this guy, and like this mobster, and apparently what he's helping her with is just drugs. And so he actually doesn't know that, though, so he's like trying to give good advice, and he's trying to just do like the thing that he thinks is what he's supposed to do, but he has given everybody the wrong answers everywhere. And so mostly because the self-help guy is a complete and total jerk, and he's not mean enough. And so he has to figure out how to save his assistant, who gets put into a really precarious situation in this issue. And he's never met this woman in his life. He doesn't even know her name. So he's trying to put all of it together on the fly, and he realizes he may have gotten in a little over his head, but for some reason he's still very much determined to figure it all out. He might need somebody to help him, because this man cannot help himself, but we are going to see how that works out for him as the story goes. The Anansi Boys, issue 2 from Dark Horse. This is all about a guy who finds out that his dad is a god. He is like, I had no idea. Like he goes to his father's funeral. He's been estranged from his father for a really long time, and when he goes to the funeral, a woman who's kind of been around, the family. A family friend that's been there for him is like, hey, your dad was a god, and that's kind of why he lived as long as he did, and he did the things he did. And the guy's like, my dad was not a god, he was just a human who made terrible choices. And she's like, that's what you would say, but like when you and your brother were young. And he's like, ma'am, I did not have a brother. And she's like, yes, you did. And he's like, then I've never met a brother. Like, this is crazy. My dad wasn't a god, I don't have a brother. And she's like, well, when you want to find your brother, just send a message through a spider. And he's like, this woman is absolutely crazy. And so he just goes home and is like, yeah, the lady was crazy. And so he goes back to his fiance, but he starts having these weird dreams. And in them, he's kind of seeing a little bit about this past life, that his connection to his father and his family, and some things he may not have been prepared for. And, Anansi is a spider god, so I'm sure we're going to see how this connects at some point. But we are definitely going to see this man have to explore his family life and where he comes from and where he's going as the story unfolds. And I cannot wait to see what he does. We've got Galaxy of Madness, issue 2 from Mad Cave. This is all about a young girl who is working in space. She's on a ship with essentially her godfather, who took her in after her parents were taken. And basically her parents had figured out some very important information about the way that the world works. And she's not really sure what happened to them, whether like the government took them, whether somebody else took them. And so she's trying to figure it all out. Well, in the process of that, they are on an excavation because they are archaeologists in space. And they find this sarcophagus, and the sarcophagus seems to hold the clues to helping her find her parents, something that nobody's ever been able to give her clues for. And so she's like, I want to go out and I want to use this to find my parents. And he's like, no, we're turning it into the government. I can't let you end up like your parents. We're not going to deal with that. That's not how this is going to go. So, of course, being a teenage girl, being told she can't do something that she wants to do, she steals a ship and is like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find my parents. And she attempts to start her own adventure. And it's not adventuring when you don't really know what you're doing. It's not as easy as one would think. And so she is going through space and learning that space can drive you mad. And we are going to see exactly how far that will push her as she does just that. Dungeons and Dimwits, issue 2 from Gen Productions. What would happen if you were sucked into your D&D game, but you weren't very good at it to begin with? These guys are going to find that out. And so this is a group of kids who, while they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, one day realize that somehow the campaign has suddenly become real. And they're all in it as their characters, and they still have complete and total knowledge of the real world. And in fact, that's the only knowledge they have. They don't actually really have any knowledge of this world. And as their DM has determined that they have never been really good at it, he's trying to guide them through this world that he's created, but it is going terribly, to say the least. And now they are trying to figure out how they can go find this special object that the DM had created, just in case they ever needed a magical help to get through things. And they have to do it by going to the king of the palace, near the kingdom nearby. And when they get to the palace, it's like, oh, by the way, your character and this character are estranged brothers, and the reason why is because he thinks that you want his wife. And the guy's like, oh my god, she's so pretty. And he's supposed to stay away from her, but is a little middle school boy, so he's immediately but she's pretty, and can't let it go. And again, the problems ensue. Hijinks they are. We've got Hate Revisited, issue 2 from Fantagraphics. This is a story that came out that's actually known as the Gen X, one of Gen X's favorite comics in Hate. And now we're putting it into the now. And so you're getting a couple different stories. One will always be, each issue does contain some stories that tell us a little bit more about our characters back when they were teenagers. in that 80s, 90s time period, like what those Gen Xers went through. But then it shows them as they are now as adults. And in this one, our backstory is all about our main character becoming friends with a guy who is just kind of like that, not really even lovable loser, but just like the guy that makes all the wrong choices and everything. And now as they're adults, him and his wife find that their son is now hanging out with the guy who's the exact same character, the same person. And they're like, oh my God, remember how terrible our friend was? Like, think about all the awful things like he got you into and all the terrible ways that we almost messed up our lives by being friends with him. We've got to make sure our son isn't friends with this guy. But if we tell this to not be friends with this guy, he's just going to do it more. And so they start trying to investigate the guy, only to find out that he's actually like a really good person. And they're like, but what do we do? Because like now we're torn. And so it's so funny to see people that are the age of so many of us who are reading comics, like kind of having to deal with like the parenting and also just like the idea of adulthood after all of the ridiculous things you did as teens. So if you're a Gen Xer who loved Hate or didn't ever read it but want to like see what a like nice view into your adult life is like, you should check that out. We've got the Writer issue 2 from Dark Horse Comics, and this is written by Josh Gad, who you all know and love as Olaf from Frozen. But this is the story of a guy who is currently going through a divorce. He's like not having his best life. And he needs to figure out a way to kind of get everything together. Well, in the process of trying to do that, he finds out that his family is essentially involved in this like ancient society that has all of this power of the golem, and it's like actually in him. And the way he can use that power is he actually writes words onto paper and then eats the words, the paper with the words on it, and it gives him that power. And he starts using whatever powers that he can to get through this. But like, of course, there's like bad secret society people coming for them, and like then there's the dad who he thinks is like estranged and gone forever, who's been in this society and like has kept it secret from him, and his daughter gets kidnapped. And so him and his mom go on this adventure, getting involved, trying to save things. And honestly, I just love the mom so much. She's amazing. She's just like not gonna take anybody's crap the whole time. Super heartfelt and on every page, big adventure, and some really, really great use of like history and mythology to come together, including this one having a whole story about a green monster and the way they hid it under a certain baseball field. All right, we've got Godzilla Skate or Die issue 2 from IDW. We are giving Godzilla all kinds of fun this year, and we are giving skateboarding a big push this summer, and now we are putting them back together, or together again, I guess I should say, in Godzilla Skate or Die. Basically, what happens in this book is a bunch of teenagers have this place that they absolutely need to go to. They've been saving this one day of their year where they're going to go out and they're going to skate this space that's meaningful to all of them. And as they ditch school and get on the bus to go do that, a warning comes across all of their information that it is in fact a kaiju landing, and there are 2 kaiju who are going to town battling against each other on the coastline, and that is exactly where they need to go. And so everybody's supposed to be evacuating, but they're like, no man, we gotta skate even if it means we die. Like, we can't miss it, we gotta go for it, man. And so they head out to this area and are trying to get there, and they're gonna find some kaiju. They've got police after them, they've got emergency personnel after them, and they got themselves in a pickle that they're gonna have to skate their way out of. And it's just a fun, absolute riot ride. So check it out. All right, we've got a lot of books kicking off this week, literally, or the last 2 weeks. Literally, this is just number 1s that I think I even have a couple that I didn't read, that I didn't get to. So there's a lot of books that launched this last 2 weeks, starting with the return of Nice House on the Lake with The Nice House by the Sea, issue 1 from DC Comics and James Tynion. If you didn't read Nice House on the Lake, just close your ears right now, because this is not going to make any sense to you without it. You absolutely 100% have to read Nice House on the Lake to read this book, because this is all in the same universe. So if you did or did not read Nice House on the Lake, Nice House on the Lake is basically about the end of the world, and a bunch of people who are hand-selected by a man to go live in a house where everything that they could possibly want is given to them, and they are basically chosen survivors who have to learn to live in that. Well, turns out, come to find out, they are not the only people chosen, nor is that the only house. There is another house. It is by the sea instead of the lake. And there are different people who are in that one. And we find out some of the information about who those people are, and how they've kind of had their experience. The other one all seemed to be people who had personal ties to each other. It was almost like one specific friends group, and people who could really just mint something to the person who selected them. This is actually a group of people who could all actually like rebuild the world. These are all very smart people who created certain things and who may actually be creating a lot of the things that are needed for this world to continue to survive. And yet there is still personal connections, and there are ties not only to each other, but to some of the things that have happened in the Nice House by the Lake. So again, if you didn't read Nice House on the Lake, you have to read this. But if you did read Nice House on the Lake, you absolutely need to read this, because, well, this is where the story goes. So check it out. You can get Nice House on the Lake in a one volume, like, collected edition for all 12 issues before you jump in and start this one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back with issue 1 of the new series that IDW and Jason Aaron are kicking off. So we had 150 issues of the last run of Ninja Turtles, and that is a really long time to go. So they are kicking it off for the 40th anniversary with an all new story. And this is actually going to start with a story of one particular turtle who is in prison. And it kind of does have a little bit, if you were fans of Last Ronin, this is definitely going to have more of a Last Ronin-esque feel. So this is a good way to like jump into that if you haven't read an ongoing Ninja Turtles before. But this is following Raphael in prison, and he's there for several reasons, and you're going to find out what those reasons are as you explore the story. But he is dealing with some stuff that has to deal with some people who are making some really bad choices and kind of trying to uncover some things while he's in prison. And so even though he's there, he is still trying to do what turtles do best, which is solve crime and fight against it. But he is constantly worried about what is going on the outside and whether or not his brothers are safe. And as he is attempting to figure that out for himself, some things that he thought were going to be going positively in his way don't, and we actually see the return of some very dangerous foes for Raphael as he is trying to make his safety known and kind of like get through this prison situation. I'm trying so hard not to spoil all of the different twists and turns that come for this story, but if you're a Ninja Turtles fan, now's your chance. Honestly, 150 issues, almost like, I mean, that's like 10 years. More than 10 years almost, right? Because we do like one issue a month. It's more than 10 years of that story, and I feel like we were only on monthly. So this is a great chance for the first time in a long time for a new person to jump into Ninja Turtles at the start. And so, take advantage of that while you can. All right, we've got The Long Road to Retribution. Issues 1 and 2 came out from Blood Moon at the same time. And so I'm going to talk to you about issue 1, but know if you pick up issue 1 because it sounds good that you don't have to wait because issue 2 is also out. And this is all about, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I forgot how crazy the story was. This is all about a world where like our prisons are overrun. And so what they've started doing is every year they take a group of prisoners and they take them up to a space station, and they take 2 cops essentially from different places, like all cops are put into a lottery, and 2 are chosen each year to be the ones to go up to the space station with them and be the cops that are overseeing that. And one cop is, you know, somebody who really loves his job but loves his family more and is like, I'm just gonna get this done and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be with my family. And the other cop is a guy who's like, I'm going because I want to like kill some people, and in space nobody can hear you break the law. Or and so he seems to have like a really shady past, and we haven't really determined everything that it is yet. And so these 2 guys are paired together to go up into space, and basically they find out that they have to stay there the whole year. There's nothing, like they don't get to leave. And the prisoners that they rotate out, because now the space prison is too full. So now like they have to basically like choose some prisoners and just kill them. And so that new prisoners can take their place. And it is crazy to see what happens. It's crazy to see how these 2 guys like don't get along. We're gonna find out if they kill each other, if they make it through. It's gonna be a dark road to retribution for these guys for sure. And I'm already in to see where this goes for sure. Lifeboat. It's a one-shot from Critical Entertainment. I love that, like, it's like the year 1.7x 10 to, like, 1.7 times 10 to the 106th power. Like, we're that far into the future. And basically this is about a group of people who are on, like, the last piece of, like, society, like, in any universe. Like, our entire universe is fading away. And so the only thing that remains is them on this ship, and like they watch as the last planet essentially disappears. And so they're like, you see them come like together, and it's just like the 3 of them, and they talk about how like, okay, it's the end of everything, like we're about to just see the end, and how they each go through the process of like everything has to shut down. It's like, okay, we can't have music anymore. Okay, now we can't have food anymore. Okay, now we can't do this. Like, they're just trying to keep the ship alive as long as possible. And it gets down to the point where it's like, there's nothing left. And now it's going to start taking from us and from our livelihoods. And you have to basically say goodbye and know that you're going to die. It's freaking beautiful. Critical Entertainment has brought us some really great books already. I can't wait to see what else they put out. Headsman, issue 1 from Blood Moon's comics. This is a time in the future where we get to the point where we want to figure out like we no longer again have room for prisons, and so they kind of just come up with a new way, and basically like they just create like executioners like on the go. And this guy's name is Headsman Volt, and he's a superhuman executioner and a descendant of Thomas Edison. And so he essentially has the power to electrocute people, and so he's just going after anybody that is a criminal and is taking them out. And so he is, and the whole time he's talking, he gives you like the entire history of how electricity is created, but also how the electric chair is created, and is talking about how like inventions are partially imagination, but partially like having like the tools to do things, and how he wants to create like the perfect execution and like build it up. And it's just him being like, you know, if you're a bad person, you just like who did really bad things, like certain criminals, just he's like need to die, and I'm the hand that's gonna do it. And it's crazy. We've got Gunbreed, Murder of Talking Crows from Blood Moon Comics. Gunbreed is an ongoing series that kind of comes out in these little mini-series. This is a one-shot for it. That's all about this sheriff who lost his family and ended up having to be a shepherd for, like, he ended up dying eventually too, and he kind of became stuck in the town that he was from, and it became a shepherd for the dead at one point, but is now kind of just dealing with all of his own demons and darkness. And so we get two stories in here, and the first one is is the murder of talking crows, and we see him using these crows to help him fight against some darkness and some things that are coming his way. But I really, the crows are awesome in that one, and the art, like, you get some crazy wicked art in this book. But I really like the second story that's in this one a lot, and so I'm gonna show you that one for sure. But it's got oh my gosh, first I have to show these wicked crows. But in the second story, it's all about like this, like, you know, like the snake oil salesman kind of guy who comes to the Old West and is like, but they're all like people who can't pass on, like this is the afterlife. And so he's like, oh, I've got this chemical, like, or this elixir that's gonna help you pass on. And one of the kids is like, do you have anything that can help me be alive again? And he's like, yeah, what are you willing to give me? And so this kid comes up with a deal that he strikes, and right before he's supposed to like go through his own deal, he sees the effects of the mystery elixir, and it starts to like panic and realize like this guy isn't who he thought he was gonna be. And it's such a cool story. Two really fun dark, creepy stories that have this great guy just doing wicked. I know there's crows in it. Matt's always a sucker for the crows in the horror stories, so The Cowboy with Many Hats, also from Critical Entertainment, and also a one-shot. This is all about a sheriff in an old western town who is framed for some murder, and he's framed by the state marshal. And so he's like, oh my gosh, like the only thing I can do is I can get out of here. I have to run away. And so we get to see him go through a couple different places, like as he tries to find a safe space for him to live in. And so he's like ends up becoming a miner and is like underground and thinks he's going to be safe there, but they find him there. And then he ends up going to some other places. And so we just get to see this man kind of realize that once you're framed for this thing, unless you fight back, like the only thing you can do is keep running. And we just kind of see what that running for him is going to look like as he wears his many hats. Coins of Judas from Band of Bards. This is the Gambler. It's technically, I guess, part 5 of the Coins of Judas story. So it's kind of been coming out in like one shots and mini pieces. But this is about a family that's job is to do exactly, like their job is to find all the coins of Judas, which are the cursed money that like Judas was paid for betraying Christ. And the belief is that it can bring forth demons. If you own one, you can call forth like a demon and control it as long as you have the coin. And this family is supposed to be the ones who find them, this brother and sister. And so they are working their way through the world trying to find all of these. And in this issue, they go to this casino, and they're gonna have to like fight their way up 12 flights to get to it, and they learn about all the different people who are on it. But I love that you get like them like actually working their way up the different staircases, and after you heard what each person is going to be, like each level shows like that person attacking them. But they're trying to get their way through to the top so they can face off against the darkness, the demon controlling person at the top, and figure it out. And every issue, of course, leads us to finding out that we are going to have to go to all new places to find where we can stop those demons and get those coins back. We've got Biden's Titans versus Mickey Mouse from Keen Spot. This is absurd. If you haven't been following Keen Spot's political things, they do one for everybody that's running for office or connected to office over the course of like election years. And in this one, we find out that Steamboat Mickey is available, is in our world, and they're like, oh my god, we found this. Of course, Joe Biden's like, oh my god, Mickey Mouse, like, is he real? And Pete Buttigieg is like, no, he's not real. It turns out neither are we. We're all actually characters in an independent comic. And they're like, well, then how could Mickey Mouse be here? And they're like, he's like, well, because that steamboat version is actually public domain. And they're like, this is ridiculous. Nobody believes anything you say. And then Robert Kennedy Jr. comes in and is like, you have to let me in. I'm important. I'm the greatest Nepo baby that's ever existed. I need to have the power. I need to be included in everything. And they go to vaccinate Mickey Mouse, and Robert Kennedy Jr. loses his mind. Here's a nice printout. As we always get one. It's fantastic. But they are like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And then Winnie the Pooh shows up because he's also public domain, and they decide that they're gonna be friends and love each other, and then as they're thrown out to the society, they actually, because Robert Kennedy tries to save them from being vaccinated, but they do get vaccinated, they find themselves feeling very jolly and very happy and being together, and it's so cute, and all kinds of things happen. And when we're reminded that we also do still have a story going on with Biden's Titans, and there is a whole thing going on, and we're going to see where that goes. I'm actually really curious because they are very the Keen Spot political books are actually very, very on top of things and stay very close. So I know that we have a book that's supposed to come next, but I'm actually really curious to see if that completely changes now with everything that's going on with the election, and how they're going to work that into the story, because again, they're very fast at getting those things into it. A Last Goodbye from Band of Bards. This is all about a man in the year 2096, and he and his dog have been living on the East Coast because the world kind of died. We had like an apocalyptic situation, and he moved to the East Coast where everybody did to be safe, but now he wants to go back home because he feels like that's where he needs to be, and we see why as we follow this emotional journey of this man who recaps his story of his time with his wife in her last days. And he's like, I need to go back. I need to be with her. And we see kind of that story unfolding for him as he's also traveling back. But in the process of traveling back, he gets captured by some people who have mutated over the course of this apocalypse and are now like taking in other people and keeping them prisoners so that they can use them for their personal needs. And he has to learn, he has to try to fight back. And one of the things is that he's always kind of just been the guy that gives up. And so he's got to make up for the mistakes of his past while also trying to get to the future. And holy crap, this is so emotionally done. Like, you think it's just going to be like an action story and that it's going to be just like post-apocalyptic, but this is a one-shot that breaks your heart by the end of it, and it's so good. Oh my gosh, if you didn't grab A Last Goodbye, grab this. So good, so good. Bottoms Up, that I'm going to be able to pick up at some point. Bottoms Up from Silver Sprocket. If you are a fan of cooking blogs, this is the book for you. And if you wonder why cooking blogs waste your time with all of the words that they put on them, this is definitely the book for you. This starts out exactly that. It is the story of somebody who is going to teach you how to make tiramisu, and they're literally like, yeah, I know nobody likes cooking blogs, but they do a lot of talking and it's stupid and annoying, but also like, we get paid by how long you're on the website. So here's a bunch more ads and a bunch more stuff that I'm going to keep telling you my story. And while I'm telling you my story, if you want to scroll faster, that's fine. But the longer my story is, the more ads they can put on it. And they keep just kind of telling you the whole thing. But then it shows them like going out to the restaurants, and it starts out really cute, like, or going out to the supply stores. Like, it starts out cute with them like, oh, here's a photo of me doing this, and here's how great that was. And then, because it's Silver Sprocket and wonderful things must ensue, suddenly it's very, very dark, and there is a the whole turn where this now becomes like they're still giving you the recipe story and they're still giving you all that information, but meanwhile they're being chased by an assassin and like madness is ensuing, and you're like still reading the story and thinking that you're gonna get all these happy pictures of everything that's going on, but that's not the case at all. It just keeps getting darker and darker. But, you know, there's a great recipe for tiramisu at the end of the day, and that's really all you need. I love that the description is, it's a story that's one part recipe blog, one part comic book, with a dash of sardonic humor, a dollop of existential dread, and a pinch of gig economy camaraderie. And I'm like, that's totally exactly the best way to describe this book. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. I'm just going to hand it to Matt because he loves to complain about recipe blogs every day. So he'll enjoy that. Flash Gordon makes his return with issue 1 from Mad Cave. If you are a fan of Flash Gordon, I will tell you that Jeremy Adams, who is writing this, is very, very excited to be bringing you this story, and is not going to give you a Flash Gordon traditional origin story. This actually starts with Flash Gordon doing what Flash Gordon does and saving the day. And he is past a lot of things. Like, as far as we know at the beginning of this story, like, Ming, who is the bad guy that's from Flash Gordon, is gone. Everybody assumed Flash Gordon was dead, but he's actually like trapped in this place. And the guy next to him is like, hey, I got to get out of here because I've got to save some people. Like, Dale is going to get married to this terrible person and bad things are going to happen. And Flash Gordon is like, wait, that's my person. I need to get out there. I need to save them. And so he's trying to figure out how to like break free of these chains and like get into this. And like the person has no idea that he's talking to Flash Gordon. And it's so hilarious to me because you have to have like the cheesiness of it or it wouldn't be Flash Gordon. And so the guy's like, okay, well, now that you broke us free, like we have to go. And he's like, wait, I have to change first. And you get this like montage moment of him putting on all the clothes, and then it's like, oh my god, you're Flash Gordon. And I like really like you had to like sing the song like in your head like when you say it at the same time. Yeah, and you're like, ta-da! And so it's hilarious, and because you do get all the cheesiness, and then you get to see Flash Gordon like break free and try to go out on his adventure and set up a big story of him having to save some people. And obviously, if Flash is still alive, what does that mean about Ming? Is he still out there in this world? What is coming our way? We're gonna find out because this is issue 1, and Defenders of the Earth are coming back too. So we're gonna see a lot of pulp heroes at Mad Cave. You know, you're gonna have Flash Gordon, you're gonna have Dick Tracy. Defenders of the Earth has the Phantom in it, so there's gonna be a lot going on. We've got Greaser, Gemini Blues, issue 1 from Magma. Magma continues to surprise me with great storytelling in every issue that they bring out. So far, there's been some just fantastic stories for this first wave of their first year. I mean, they didn't even launch until this summer, and they've already on like 4 great books. And this is another one. This is all about a kid named Buddy, who is a greaser who lives in the future in Nevada, and it's like scorching hot as always in Nevada, but also like now we have even less water, and aliens have come and they're kind of like living like they're like rule different districts, but they can't live beyond their ships because humans have destroyed the earth. And so anyway, Buddy lives in this place with his grandma, and they run a bar, roadside diner, and these motorcyclers come in and they like are like, we want you to feed us and give us stuff, and they're like, well, everything's broken right now, we can't really do that. And Grandma and Buddy end up having to save themselves from some stuff that's happening when the cops don't show up. But it turns out the cops are the aliens, and when the aliens do show up, they're like, hey, we need to find out where those people went because we need some precious cargo that they have. And he's like, we don't know anything about that. We find out that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with whatever that motorcycle gang was carrying that may be quintessential to the alien survival. We also find out that Buddy has a major crush on the alien sheriff's daughter, and he is trying to convince her that, you know, maybe they should just run away together once he finishes building this perfect car. And it's super cute. There's so much heart in it between the family and the girl. We find out there's some stuff going down that we're gonna really see come out to play with this. But also, Grandma is totally cool, and I can't wait to see her just mess stuff up for everybody the whole time. Great characters already, super fun. I can't wait to see where this story goes for sure. Cole County Outbreak. This is from Strangers, and according to this book, this is 100% true story about 3 inmates who escaped a correctional facility in 1999. And I love that it literally is like, these are all true events. And then you see these 3 women who dig themselves out of their cells and are trying to, like, they jump into, you know, the drainage. They're trying to get out of this prison, and as they're crawling through, they come across some bugs, and one of them gets like covered in bugs. She can't walk because, like, when she jumped into the thing, she like breaks her ankle, and she's covered with all these flies, and she's panicking, and they just like leave her because it's prison break, right? So you just keep going. But then things get worse before they get better, and the other 2 women who are trying to escape suddenly find themselves also facing these bugs and things coming out of the water and coming after them. And we get a creepy, terrifying story of these women trying to escape. And does anybody make it out alive? We'll find out. It's a true story, obviously, because that's what it says at the beginning of the book, and that's never been fake when that's happened before. We've got some big horror returns this week with the return of all kinds of fun, exciting things. But we've got Hello Darkness from Boom Studios, which is going to be bringing back some more horror anthology fun for us from Boom. And this is also a great Jenny Frison cover. Eisner nominated Jenny Frison, I should say. But this is one of those stories that, or one of those anthology books that has a couple different stories in it, and I totally didn't look at which one came first before I started. So so first is an outbreak essentially amongst kids in a neighborhood, and something is passing amongst the kids, and as they get it, they just start like taking out their parents, and so they send all kids to stay home to keep them away from each other so that none of the virus can spread. But that doesn't really have the impact that they're thinking it's going to, and so some bad things happen. And then we get a story called Stay in Your Lane. Also, that image is just wildly creepy, so I'm going to show it to you. So we get a story called Stay in Your Lane that's all about a guy who wants to be a bowling champion and gets mad when they bring a bunch of kids in to be on the teams and to play in the league more, and so he goes after everybody in the bowling alley, completely snaps, and just loses his mind, and it is a crazy slasher. And then here's the important thing that y'all need to know. Hello Darkness will feature a Something is Killing the Children story that will only be available in Hello Darkness, and this is your first bit of that right here as we see Erica Slaughter coming into a town and going to a bar, and you're gonna have to pay attention to that. And then we get another little short, but I'm gonna skip that one and go to this one, which features a guy who, okay, I cannot get that out, so I'm just gonna show you this page. Features a guy who joins a service for keeping limbs alive, and basically it's like, oh, you can have limbs added to your body to keep them fresh until people need them. It's like a new service, and he thinks he's going to be a hero and everybody's going to love him, but then he loses his mind because everybody kind of just starts to love the hand more than they love him, and he's not the hero and he's mad about it. And then we get a story that's another starter. And this one's called The War, and it's from Garth Ennis, and it just kind of is a bunch of people who are sitting around at a party, and they're just talking about politics and society and the things that are happening in American culture right now. And one of the wives of them is like, I really just want to go, like, I don't really feel good, I want to go home, I don't know what's going on. And we kind of just leave that story like right there. We don't really see too much of it because she just like wakes up in the middle of the night and like they can't sleep, and we don't really know what happens with that one. So that one leaves us on a really big cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to see where that's going to go. This is going to also at one point feature a new story from R.L. Stine coming your way in the future. So keep that in mind as you also like to decide which of the mini horror anthologies you want to follow. This one's going to have a lot of good stories in it, especially with that having those Something is Killing the Children specials in it. And then we have the return of EC Comics with what? With Epitaphs of the Abyss coming your way from Oni Press. There are all new stories in here, and there's so many good ones as well. But you've got one story which is all about a guy who is a writer who is trying to figure out how to write the best screenplay ever, and it turns out his roommate, who has no skill whatsoever, is actually just a secret like amazing writer, and he does not take that well, and we're going to see how that plays out. And then we get to see the story of a woman who is interviewing a senator and who is trying to investigate why this senator has completely changed her position on something, and in the process of that we see exactly how the secret underbelly of political gain is working in our world. And then we have one that's all about a guy who is being told he has to choose a member of his family to kill, and this is all going to be like screened for people to follow along on the internet, and he's like, I have to, like, they're being like, you have to choose, like, you will not make it out unless you kill somebody. And it's such a tragic story, and to see how they all go through it. And then there's one last story about some people who have mutated and who are coming after some other people in their town, and what they are going to do to them when they find them is dark and creepy. Their whole thing with the EC horror line is they didn't want it to feel they wanted it to feel like EC horror never ended, and that the EC comics are just picking up right where they left off, but with all these modern creators and modern styles. And so we're going to get some very crazy off the wall stories as this continues to go our way. All right, so we've got a couple of picks of the week for you, or picks of the 2 weeks. One up first is Blow Away issue 4 from Boom Studios. Honestly, I'm just putting this in here for the series in general because it continues to get better and better with every issue. But this is about a woman who is out doing research on like a mountaintop, and she's supposed to be filming these birds, and in the process she ends up capturing footage of these 2 people on the cliff top who should not be climbing the cliff as it is, because it's like a blizzard. But in the process, she sees a murder between them. And over the last 3 issues, she has been trying to like go in and figure out like who these people are and where they're from and how they are being like attacked, and or why they're being attacked, and just get this information together. And the cops have come for her and like tried to make her do things. It's been a whole big investigation that she just kind of seems to be losing her mind through. And in the last issue, she decided to go out and climb the mountain and look for her own evidence. And a storm hit, and now she has been brought into a cave after falling through some stuff, and she has a person with her that she thinks is possibly one of the killers, possibly something going on, and she's trying to figure out how to get away and to get all of her information back to everybody. But this is not, the twists and turns that come with this are constant, and every time you think that it's like almost to her figuring it out, something completely and totally off the wall happens that changes the direction again, and this is no exception. And I really like the big twist that we got in this issue, and I want a solution, but I also want it to keep going. We've got The Big Burn, issue 1 from Distillery. I'm so excited about this book. This is all about a couple that meets that it's so funny because he's like they're both trying to rob the same place and at the same time, and it turns out she's like a super planner, but she doesn't actually have the skill, and he has all the skills but has no idea how to make a plan. So they end up teaming up and going, becoming a partnership and falling in love and just being super cute thieves. And then they get caught one day, and they're like, oh my god, we're gonna get put in prison for life, like we're never gonna get out of this. And the devil shows up and is like, I can get you out of it if you sell me your souls. And they're like, sure, yeah, whatever, that's not a real thing, we'll take it to get out of it. But it turns out that what your soul truly is the passion that you have for things. And so it causes them to like lose their love for like their thievery. It causes them to lose their zest for life. It also causes them to really lose their love for each other. And one of the female in the couple ends up checking herself into a place, to deal with the loss that she's having. And in the process, he ends up going back to being a thief, but does a terrible job. And some bookies come for him, and in the process, they act like of threatening him. They kind of kill him, at least for a moment. And he ends up in hell, and he finds out that hell is just a giant casino. And that everything that exists in a casino exists in there, including a vault, and that's where everybody's souls are stored. And he is determined to get their souls back for them. So he goes around to other people who have sold their souls to the devil, because when he gets back to the real world, and is like, let's plan a heist. We're gonna rob hell, and we're gonna get our souls back. And so it's incredible, and I can't wait to see how this goes. Oh, sorry. I got really excited. I'm sorry. Up next, we have Sacrificers, issue 10. This is just continues to be an absolutely fantastic story. And we've been switching characters back and forth between two main characters. And now we are following the daughter of the gods, who has been forced out of her kingdom and is living on the streets. And she has lost all of her powers, and she's also been aged up. And in this issue, as beautiful as it is all about her having to deal with nobody recognizing her and nobody giving her the solace that she needs, as she is filled with darkness and is dying and is hungry. And she's gone from this life of luxury where everybody always focused on her and kept her safe, and now she is on the streets and just nobody will help her. And we finally see some crossover moments between our two main characters coming our way. I cannot wait to see where this story goes. It's so beautiful. It's my favorite Rick Remender book of all time. And then lastly, we've got Haunted House, a Love Story, issue 6 from Blood Moon Comics. This is all about this is a story of a house telling us about its experiences from its time being built to its time possibly of destruction, and falling in love with the person who built it. And over the course of the last 6 issues, after losing its original owner, it has haunted everybody and has kept them out, has caused them to lose their minds, to go after each other, to go after themselves. Has just been a house of darkness and destruction. And now that they are coming to actually bulldoze it down, a group of people are trying to fight to save it, because they understand the value of the history and the house itself. And what's so beautiful is the house, who's always hated itself and the place that it's been in since it lost its first love, realizes that the most important love story that it ever had was in finding a value within itself and learning to love itself. And it just it does that in such a beautiful way in this issue. And it's so the little wrap up at the end of this was just such a great story for everybody to kind of just take to heart with them. And so what a great conclusion to that story. All right. So we've got a couple of books in stock, most of which are on this side because I didn't get to them, or they're big 2 books. So first up, we had the Eternal Warriors Return to Valiant, and I'm really excited to check out what's going on, because the Valiant Alien books relaunch has been a lot of fun to see where they're going. We also have the return of Vince with Challenger's Long Shot. I love Vince. This is for all of you Yuri on Ice fans. This is a fencing version essentially of the same thing. It's a great teen book that is very much just an American anime. And then I'm really excited for this as well, and I only got halfway through, so I didn't get to talk about it, but it's MI666 Rise of the Score from Bliss on Tap Publishing, and I cannot wait to see what this book does with Aleister Crowley and Houdini and Van Helsing and all of the stuff that happened with them around the 1940s and the wars. And then we had the super massive crossover every year. Radiant Black Universe has a crossover that brings all of the characters from Radiant Black, Radiant Red, Radiant Pink, Rogue Sun, Dead Lucky, No One, everything all together. And this is this year's summer exclusive. We've got Godzilla Rivals versus Manda. We get all the fun in those Godzilla rival books. We've got Resident Evil, The Book of Life, issue 2. Bringing back the Resident Alien, bringing back the Resident Alien world for all of you who love the show or who love the comic. That's a great story, and I loved issue 1 of that, so I can't wait to read issue 2. Joy Operations, issue 2 from Dark Horse, also out. I'm really excited to check this out, read this one this week as well. This is Lore, issue 2. It's a reprint of classic of the story that already existed from Lore from Ashley Wood and T.P. Lewis, and it's just remastered, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and I cannot wait. We've got also in stock the Doctor Who. This is for the 11th Doctor, I believe. Yes, it is. I was looking at David Tennant on the back, and I was like, which one did I bring? What if Donald Duck became Wolverine? We've got Darkest Hour, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers coming out. We've got Midnight Suns as a part of Blood Hunt issue 3. We are seeing the end of the Blood Hunt stuff coming to us now. Black Widow Venomous issue 1. Look at how cool she is. Absolute Power Task Force issue 3. We also had Absolute Power Origins while we were gone. Annihilation 2099 issue 5. Blood Hunt issue 5, which should be so we have just a couple of Blood Hunt titles left to wrap it up. And then Captain Marvel issue 10, Red Hood the Hill issue 6. We've got Spider-Man, Shadow of the Green Goblin issue 4, Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red issue 4, which is going to wrap that up. Immortal Thor issue 13. Everything had a Deadpool cover this month for the movie. Do not spoil it in the comments for people who haven't seen it. Nightwing, The Leap. This is volume 4 of the Tom Taylor run on Nightwing. Stoker's Dracula, the Marvel adaptation, which is really cool. And then we had Putty Pygmalion from Silver Sprocket, which is You Can't Sculpt Someone to Love, somebody trying to build their own boyfriend, and how terribly wrong that does go for them. Don't forget, this Thursday we have our Fresh Start Book Club with issue 1 of World Tree. You can get this for $1 here at the store on Wednesday, so you have time to read it. Or if you already have a copy, you don't have to buy one. You can just read the one you already have and come on out. And then I think Story Spelunkers is this Sunday, so if you got little one, or this Saturday, so if you got kiddos who you want to have them work on their reading, or who just love comics and want to be a part of our comic book club for kids, bring them out this Saturday at noon. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks again to everybody who came out and helped out at the store while we were gone, everybody who's come in, and I hope everybody here in Bradenton is safe as the storm is continuing to hit us. Thanks for talking comics with us and for celebrating my birthday with me while I talk about comics. Check out this amazing Tempranillo. It's delicious. I'm going to drink some more of it right now while I go finish celebrating my birthday. Thanks, and until I see you again, everyone, happy reading. Bye.